Hello, Beard Wizard family. Welcome to the show. Man, I need a trim so bad. It's a good thing I'm going to see my barber tomorrow. This beard is getting a little freaking crazy. Anyway, welcome to Beard Wizard Rants. I haven't done one of these in a while. But if you're new here, this is a show where I talk about topics that bother me, things that frustrate me, or just generally things I want to rant about. Before we jump into today's topic, though, be sure to subscribe. Our goal as soon as possible. I'm not going to say this year because I did that last year and we didn't quite meet our goal. We got very close. But our goal, our next milestone is 7,500 subscribers. There's other ways to support the channel and support Miss Ripley. Hi, Miss Ripley, our co-host over here. You could check out our merch store where you get your very own Beard Wizard merchandise, or you could check out my books in the Linktree link in the video description below. Anyway, what are we talking about today? What are we ranting about today? Again, this is a live show. If you're in the live stream, say hi. If you're watching the recording, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of comments because the last time I did a stream about AI, there was a bunch of comments. A lot of comments in support of my thoughts on AI and a lot of comments in support of AI. I am going to tell you, though, if you're going to come into my comment section and tell me that I'm bigoted against AI or in any way anthropomorphize AI, I'm going to laugh at you. AI is not a person. Let's just set the record straight right now. AI is not a person. AI cannot be discriminated against. You cannot be bigoted against AI. You cannot be racist against AI. AI doesn't have rights. AI is a computer program. And you may think this is weird. If you're coming to this show and you agree with me or you're new to this topic, you may think that's a really weird thing to say. But I have actually had people accuse me of bigotry and racism against AI, as if AI is a person that has rights. It's not, and it doesn't. So, if you're going to come into my comments acting like that, I'm going to laugh at you. I'm going to treat you like the fool you are. So, what's on the topic today? We got three kind of topics all tied together. Things that popped up. So, the other day, 2 days ago, yesterday, maybe even, I found out that Chuck Dixon, we'll talk about who Chuck Dixon is in here in a minute. Chuck Dixon is, he's got a Kickstarter going for a comic book he's doing. Comic book looks really cool. The art kind of looked cool at first glance. I'm a big history fan. I love things. I love topics like the Crusades, medieval history, World War II history, World War I history. I love history. So when I saw the art, I was like, oh, this kind of looks interesting. And then I started looking more into it. And yeah, it's an AI comic. He admits it. He discloses it. So props to Chuck for disclosing that. Because the consumer should know what they're buying. But there's some problems with that, partly because of who Chuck Dixon is, partly because I think Chuck Dixon could easily get artists to work with him. Secondly, Kickstarter's response to this, Kickstarter's stance on this is very confusing and I think lacks a lot of spine. And the third topic is the bar for art, the bar for writing and art, for image art, painting, sculpting. Like the bar is so freaking low. I saw so many comments, and we'll talk about the exact image in a second. I saw so many comments about how amazing the art looked. The art does not look amazing. Except, like, again, at first glance, really cool. When you look again, not so cool. So, who's Chuck Dixon? If you don't know, Chuck Dixon. I know Chuck Dixon. I grew up with Chuck Dixon. Chuck Dixon has been a comic book writer since the 80s. He worked on Savage Sword of Conan. Let me get to his list. Dude he's worked for DC, he's worked for Marvel, he's worked for Eclipse, IDW, Dark Horse, CrossGen, Devil's Due, Rippaverse, which is a newer one. Xenoscope, Wildstorm. He has worked on Batman. He's worked on Punisher. He's worked on Conan. He's worked on G.I. Joe. He has worked on Simpsons for Bongo Comics. He has worked on what's some other big ones? What If? Robin, tons of Batman titles, Superman. Needless to say, this dude, as far as comic book writers go, he's a household name. He's a name you should know, especially if you grew up on comics since the 80s and 90s. Dude has been writing comics since his first comic was writing Evangeline for Comico Comics in 84. And then he was hired to write Savage Sword of Conan from Marvel in the early 80s. Like, Chuck Dixon's a huge dude. And there's a reason I say that. There's a reason that is important. Chuck Dixon is not a no-name comic book writer. People should know who he is. So, the reason I say that is because Chuck Dixon should have no trouble hiring an artist, paying an artist to work on an original comic. Any up-and-coming artist, especially if he's working on a budget. Let's give dude the benefit of the doubt. Chuck Dixon is 70 years old. He may or may not know the ins and outs of technology. He may or may not have studied AI to learn how it works. He may or may not even care. I don't know. I don't know Chuck. I did ask about his AI for this comic, and I got no response. There would be artists lining up to work with Chuck Dixon. Needless to say, if Chuck Dixon said, hey, I need some art for a comic book about the Crusades, I guarantee if he made that post on Twitter today, hey, I need some artists to work on a comic about the Crusades, boom, his inbox would be full of people who could blow away the art that we're about to see. So what am I talking about? If you've not seen this, it's called The French Baron. Let me oh shoot, I got the wrong. Let me do this. Let me pull this up and then put this down. All right, no, that's live show, boys and girls. Here we go. Okay, so it's called The French Baron. Yes, I'm showing it. If you guys are, I'm not going to hide what it is. If you guys want to back this thing, back this thing. I don't care where you spend your money. A lot of people spend their money to have a chick poop on their chest. I don't care. It's no skin off my teeth. But you should definitely be aware of what you're paying for. So the art that I actually saw, this was the panel that I saw. Let me see here if I can make this larger here so that we can see this kind of larger here. So this here is the panel that was shared on Twitter that I saw yesterday. And right out of the gate, like, yes, initially this looks really cool. But when you start to look closer and you start to read the dialogue, you realize that the top panel and the bottom right panel are the same character. I don't know about you, but immediately this becomes a game of what's missing. Cloak, elbow guards, helmet visor's different, cross is different. You can't see the hands. I think that's intentional. Like, right away, there's an immediate problem with the consistency of the art. And that's when I talked about the low bar of art and the low bar of expectations from art is pretty apparent when I saw his Twitter post full of responses about how amazing this looks. It doesn't. At first glance, like, this is obviously the panel you see. Yeah, that's pretty freaking epic. That's pretty cool looking. That really is. But when you dig down into it, it's really not. It's really awful. It's like comically awful. So what does old Chuck say about this that he's doing? We're going to look at some more art for this comic here in a second to show you why AI is a problem. But partly he says, okay, so his words, his explanation. Since I'm a solo artist on this project, AI assists me in the large scale. I'm reading, you can go right to his Kickstarter page and read this. Large scale base composition, then I take the finer details to the next level that is required for consistent storytelling. Consistent. Let's remember that word, consistent, because there was nothing consistent about that panel or that page we just looked at. And speed of delivery, that's another key factor right there. So I have said many times, AI is not about replacing artists for quality, because the bar right now is so low. If you put out enough mediocre trash fast enough, you're bound to make more money than if you release consistent quality art at a slower pace. And that's what it's all about. Boys, everybody who supports AI that says just do better than the AI, it's just your challenge as an artist to do a better job. No, it's not. It's your challenge as an artist to do a faster job. Because for people who use AI, it's not about quality. It's about quantity. And because people actually looked at that comic page and talked about how amazing it looked and how it was the coolest thing they've ever seen. And this thing, if you didn't notice, we'll go back up to it in a second. This thing is backed by a large margin. So a lot of people looked at this whole page and said, yeah, I'll pay money for that. So it is not about doing better than AI. It's about the fact that AI can churn out more mediocre crap than most artists are willing to sell their soul for. Faster, cheaper, and to make more money. So, speed of delivery by doing them manually. So, programs I work with to create the dynamic frames you see are Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, Canva, After Effects, Comics Life 3. My preferred image assist is AI Midjourney. That's important, Midjourney, which helps me with the scale of the images for speed. And because I come from a computing and filmmaking background, not a pencil drawing background, I have spent hundreds of hours sculpting and customizing each panel. Hundreds of hours. We just looked at 2 panels that don't even look the same for the same character. Sculpting and customizing each panel using the tools of a digital artist and filmmaker to build out the storytelling written 100% by humans. Great. That disclosure tells you you're buying an AI comic that is written by people. That's fine. Disclose away. I have always said, if you're going to use AI, disclose it so people who are going to spend money on that know what they're getting. So then under that, it says, do you have the consent? This is Kickstarter now has a use of AI policy. I looked at an older, what I know is an AI comic from Shad. Shad Brooks, if you don't know, it did an AI comic a while ago. This didn't exist when he did his. The second point is, do you have the consent of owners of the works that were or will be used to produce the AI-generated portion of your projects, and please explain. He says, yes, all the workers on this project have consented to the fact that it is an image AI-assisted project customized by human artists, and 100% of the writing is human effort. That is not the question, Chuck. Do you have the consent of the owners of the works that were or will be used to produce the AI-generated portion of the projects? Please explain. Now, we all know Midjourney does not get consent, nor give credit. Midjourney doesn't give a shit. Midjourney steals, and it doesn't care. So, he does not have the consent of the owners of the art used to create this AI comic. Period. So, some of the other art, and this is right here at the bottom if you're interested. So one of the things that is very disappointing about this project, if we get back up here to the top, it has doubled its funding. The advertising picture of this character doesn't even match the first freaking panel. But consistency, right? Consistency. So we already looked at this panel. We know this panel is jacked up. So then we move on to the next panel. Because of this is a thought bubble, right? Open image in a new tab. Let's open this image in a new tab. Let's take a look at this. All right. This here, I already had this one open. Ha. This is a thought bubble. And usually when you have a thought bubble, when you have internal monologue in a panel, the character you see, especially that you had previously seen, is the one that is thinking. That's his inner voice right there, right? What's wrong with this picture? It's a different cross. It's a different cloak. It's a elbow guards. Yes, I forgot the proper term for those in armoring. It is not the same at all. There's no consistency. And then let's safely assume that these three are different characters. I think this is the same character. We're supposed to think this is the same guy. It's not the same guy. Even if it is supposed to be the same guy, we have three different images of the same guy in the same panel. Actually, make that 4. Note the helmet. Note the visor. Not the same. Not the same. There is no consistency from panel to panel. That's why using AI to do your art. And I asked Chuck in a post a couple days ago, yesterday, day before, I don't know, if he fed Midjourney. Or, well, I didn't know at the time he was using Midjourney. I asked if he was using an LLM or a database that was fed only on his art. He's not an artist. So, no. The answer is no. It's not being fed by the art of his team either. Because he's using Midjourney. It's being fed by a database that was scraped from the internet that, again, steals and doesn't care. There's no consistency between these panels and these characters at all. So the idea that he spent hundreds of hours ensuring consistency between these panels of his main character, of his hero, is not true. He may have spent hundreds of hours, but what did he do with those hundreds of hours? So we've got those panels, and then we get into just some of the art throughout is, let's see if we can make this one bigger. Like, look at the hand, really wanting to put an extra finger in there. It makes me wonder if the AI did put an extra finger in there and it was just kind of clipped out, but clipped out very poorly, right? It's just, the symmetry is off. It's uncanny valley kind of stuff going on there. Where was the other one that was really, really off-putting? Getting right to here. Yeah, this one. What is up with that hand? And the shirt, is his shirt cut open right here? And where, like, is the gold embroidery wrapped? Like, none of this makes sense from a consistency in art, a storytelling perspective. His coat doesn't match on both sides. Like, when you have this type of naval coat, this is very clearly supposed to be representative of like a English or British naval coat. There's no consistency of the embroidery from each side. It's just so bad. Anyway, we could go through all of these, the fingers, the hands, the face, like the missing finger, maybe she only has, but no. I mean, one, two, three, four, five. Did she have her fifth finger, little finger, cut off? Um, Not to mention the odd shape. Like, I mean, so that's enough about Chuck. I don't want to tear Chuck Dixon down forever. This project to me is lackluster and half-assed, and it's really about trying to get his story out. I get it. He really wants to get his story out at the expense of creating quality art to go along with his story. There is really there's no desire. If there's a desire to create quality, consistent art for this project, I'd be like, prove it. It's not, the proof is not in the pudding in this case. And I cannot believe this many people looked at that Kickstarter page and like, yeah, I want to spend money on that. I actually absolutely want to buy that. Like it looks awful. It looks absolutely, you can't just put a bunch of flying debris and blood and scrapes on armor and go, this looks amazing. The character doesn't even look the same from panel to panel. I mean, hell, in the advertising, he has a blue cloak, and in the first panel, he has a white cloak, and in the next panel, he has no cloak. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So I went to Kickstarter's AI-generated consent page, right? And it reads here, consent and credit. Indicate if the host or provider of the database. So Midjourney works off a database, right? Has to have a database of all the images that they scraped, all the data they scraped without consent off of the internet to make Midjourney. Midjourney programmed off of using this database. Indicate if the host or provider of the database or source has obtained the consent of those whose works or information are included. You have to get consent from people whose work was included in the database for the AI imaging. We all know Midjourney doesn't do that. They've admitted it. They don't care if it's copyright. They take it anyway. You should also know whether the provider of the database or source material has duly attributed the works or information used in the database to their rightful owners. We all know Midjourney doesn't do that. Midjourney does not credit all of the artists that it steals art from. Note that if the database or source provided doesn't have processes or safeguards in place to manage consent, we know Midjourney doesn't. They don't care about consent, such as through an opt-out or opt-in mechanism, then Kickstarter is unlikely to allow your project. You cannot opt in or opt out to having your art included in Midjourney's database. It's not, they take it, they don't care. So we do not fit the consent and credit section of their AI policy by using Midjourney. And I even asked them, and this is where things got a little wonky. So this is the part about Kickstarter and what my frustration with Kickstarter. So I emailed them last night and I said, hey, this policy is a little vague. What if I have a project that's using Midjourney, very large database that does not get consent? They said, thank you for getting in touch for more info. And they basically copied this consent. The size of the host or database provider is not indicated in the above rule. Meaning it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how big the database is or the provider is. It does not matter. Then they said, for your records, we'd appreciate if you would use the report this project button, blah, blah, blah. We'll check if it violates the terms and conditions and so on and so forth. So they kind of did not answer my question. I said, does the consent and credit policy under the AI guidelines mean the database used must have the consent of the artist whose art is used in the database? Meaning if a large LLM is used, which did not get consent for the scraped data, is it a violation of policy? They didn't really answer the question. They said, report it. So to be fully honest and open, I did. I wanted to see what their response would be. I said, I believe this project is violating the consent and credit policy for AI. They state the people working on the project give their consent to use AI, but I think the policy means they need to confirm the data, and then it cuts off my report. But it basically said, and we'll go back to it right here. Let me make sure we're looking at the right thing here, because I want to make sure we're getting all of the words right. Down here. Gosh, this thing is long. All right. If I didn't just use the scroll wheel like a moron. Do you have the consent of owners of the works that were or will be used to produce the AI-generated portion of your projects? So Midjourney is being used to provide the AI-generated portion of the projects. We know Midjourney does not get consent. It does not give credit. He says, yes, all the workers on this project have consented to the fact that this is an image AI-assisted project customized by human artists, and 100% of the writing is human effort. This is not the answer to that question. So when I asked, I think this does not answer the question, I think it's actually in violation of the policy, they said, nope, it is not. They said, we've investigated to determine that it doesn't violate our rules or community guidelines. If you believe there's an issue that is not covered by our rules or guidelines, please contact us for more details. If you haven't already, you can communicate directly with the project creator. While we won't be taking action, we value your input, blah, 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 blah. Basically, we think it's fine, even though it really violates our policy, so we're not going to do anything about it. So what now? Kickstarter allows AI that uses Midjourney or ChatGPT or any others, even though they have a policy that says you have to get consent from the creators whose work is being used in the AI generating app. And they said, no, this is fine. This is fine. Even though Chuck didn't get consent, Midjourney did not get consent. Because there's no way Chuck could. How could Chuck contact every artist that Midjourney has ever scraped and get consent? He can't. That's understandable. Who would expect him to? That's Midjourney's job. We know Midjourney doesn't do it because they've admitted that they don't do that. And his question, or his answer, doesn't answer the question. So the third portion of this is the disappointment in just how low the bar is. So many people. This Kickstarter is funded to twice its goal, $10,000, over $10,000. So many responses to Chuck's post about this on Twitter. Oh, this looks amazing. This is such great art. This is awesome. I can't wait. This is like, as an artist myself, as a creator and writer myself, it is so disappointing to see how low the bar. I already knew the bar was kind of low. I mean, Twilight is a best-selling book. 50 Shades of Grey is a best-selling book. They both got made into movies. The bar is pretty damn low. But now people, like, at least those were crafted by a person. Regardless of how bad or good you think Twilight was, I have to at least give Stephanie Meyer props to have written it herself. I don't like it. I don't think it's good. A lot of people did, though. But she wrote it herself. There are a crap load of people, $10,000 worth, who think this is good. Who think this is good. Who thinks this is good. They think this is good. And they don't mind that our title character looks different in every single panel that we see him in, including the advertisement. 162 backers. $10,000 for that. It's frustrating. to know how little effort you really have to put in to make $10,000. And again, I don't want to knock Chuck. I grew up reading Chuck's work. Chuck Dixon was up there with Chris Claremont when I was reading comic books. I'm a huge fan of Chuck. And I'm going to chalk this up to he just doesn't realize. He just doesn't know. He does not know the impact the AI is having on the art community. He does not understand what this is doing to the consumption of art. And yes, art is a consumer product. We write, we create comics, we create movies and video games, and all that is art, but is art for consumers. But the more we whittle away at that bar of what is considered good art, the more we produce mediocre junk. And the more people buy it, the less incentivized people are to create good art. More and more people are going to do this because it's easy money. People who don't care about art are going to do this more, and it's going to flood the market with trash and drown out the people who are actually trying. Maybe Chuck did spend hundreds of hours crafting each panel to make sure it's perfect. I don't believe it. Maybe he did. If he did, what? You can't even make your title character look the same from panel to panel, dude. Anyway, that's all I got. Try harder, everybody. If you're consuming art, don't be the guy I talked to last night who's, I'm so mad at the anti-AI people. One of them was mean to me, so I'm buying all the AI stuff I can. This guy has artist in his bio. He says he's an artist, and he like funds AI art because he's mad at anti-AI people because one of them was mean to him. Like, you're just shooting your own foot. You're shooting your friends in the foot. Stop it. Try harder. Do better. This is awful. And it's depressing. And it's sad. So let me know what you think in the comments. This was a long rant. I don't know. Longer than I expected. But agree, disagree. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Fund this if you want to. I mean, honestly, I don't care where you spend your money. Again, there are people out there that pay to have women poop on their chest. I don't tell them not to. I think it's gross. I don't know why anybody would do it, but spend your money on whatever you want. But, you can either go have fine cuisine or you could eat Taco Bell. Sure, you can eat Taco Bell. You can digest Taco Bell. But just like Taco Bell, this isn't good for you. All right. Until next time, I'll see you guys all again soon. You have a great one. Much love.